Richard Cardillo.
Ah, no lo toco. No lo toco. Todo perfecto, perfecto. Así nomás. Ok, muchísimas gracias. I've been a teacher all my life, and one of the things that is my calling card that I've gotten known for is my relentless advocacy for my students. I always go the extra mile for them. I always stick up for them. I have met them in jail cells. I have met them on Rikers. I've met them at funeral parlors for gang members. I have met them all over the place, and I always went to bat for them. And I figured that was going to get me in trouble because I made a lot of noise every time I wanted to come to bat for my students. So I thought my downfall was going to be this badassery and this brashness in my life. What it turned out to be was my baguettes and my brownies. I'm a baker as well. I've been a baker since a teenager. I'm the family go-to person for cakes, pies, cookies, breads, everything. My staff at my job loves me because as their boss, I always ask what their birthday is. I always ask them what their favorite birthday cake is, and I make it on their birthday. So they are happy as can be with me. And I figured it was natural to join my baking together with my teaching. A while back, I was asked to help this school that was literally on life support. It was a middle school in the South Bronx, and they were given 1 year to get their act together, or they were going to close their doors. More than 50% of the students never showed up on any given day. It was dangerous. It was dysfunctional. It just didn't work as a school. And they asked me to help. And I knew that I could turn things around collaborating with those teachers. I knew we had it in us to pull this school out of this death spiral. So I started showing up, and what do you do when you first start, and where do you go first in a school that's in that dire straits? You start with the crossing guards. They know everything. So I got to know the crossing guards, and every day I'd bake a batch of homemade bagels for them. And they got to love those bagels, and we'd sit there and they'd tell me which kids are in which gang, and which parent was fooling around with which other parent, and which teacher was in trouble and ready to get arrested. And they loved it. Well, news about those bagels spread like butter to everybody else in that school. The custodians got in on it, then the security guards, and finally the teachers. And they started showing up for my trainings. They started showing up for different things in that school, and sure enough, at our 8-month mark, we did our formative assessment. We turned it around because my job was to get the suspension rate down by 50%, especially for boys of color, because they were the ones getting affected the most. And in 8 months, we cut that suspension rate by 75%. I know, it was great. They did it. We raised attendance by 85%. And standardized test scores started going up. So they were proud as can be over this. They did it all. The superintendent of the Bronx said, listen, I want to show off this school as a highlight. Can you speak at all of the superintendents getting together for the NYC DOE and present? I said I'd be happy to. So she let the administrator know for the chancellor, Richard Cardillo wants to do this, and they sent out an email to all the superintendents. Richard Cardillo was going to address you about the success that he had with this school. My superintendent copied back the administrator in the email, but CC'd everybody. She hit reply all. And she said, gonna love Richard. His snickerdoodles are the crack cocaine of the NYC DOE. Ha, ha. I go, make the presentation, and went well. 1 week later, I get a certified letter to my desk, and my boss gets one too, from the New York City Department of Education. Dear Mr. Cardillo, this is to inform you that we are starting a formal investigation of your baked goods that you're bringing to schools. Like, they gotta be kidding me. Please come for a meeting on X day. And I said, okay, I'll show up. I go there, I sit down, I'm like, what's going on? They're like, what are you putting in your cookies? I'm like, nothing. They said, level with us. Let us know what your sources are. I said, well, I use King Arthur flour. And, no, we want to know your real sources. I'm like, I don't have any sources. Listen, I got to come clean. Because of all my baking prowess, have I had friends through the ages that have asked me to bake them edibles? All the time. Have I actually made them those edibles? All the time. But I didn't mix them up. I did not mix them up. I didn't. It was not that. I get out of there. I go back to the school the next day with this reputation of what's going on, and I hear from the custodian, Oye, come here. We got something to say to you. One of the gang members said if you give them the name of their sources, they'll pay you. I'm like, there are no sources. It's King Arthur. I was reliving Breaking Bad. I became the Walter White of the NYC DOE. I couldn't believe it. 1 week after that, there's a letter that goes out, Chancellor's Regulation A-815. You can go online and you can find it. This is prohibiting the sale and distribution of all baked goods in all public schools in New York. Is that because of me? Who the hell knows? I don't know. But it was illegal to do it. And I started making noise about that too. Why don't you give them back their recess? Why don't you get phys ed? Come on, get back in there and do that. That's going to be better for them. So I kept making noise for them. And I finally got to come clean. Was I putting something secret into all those cakes, pies, cookies? I was. I was. I put heaping cupfuls of tender, loving care in every one of those. I put overflowing spoonfuls of empathy and resilience and love. And one thing I think I got to prove through all of that, because I ain't giving up on any one of these students, is that cookies can change the world. Thank you.